Hey everybody, welcome back to the Slypatch podcast. My name's Untitled Chimera. You can call me Spencer.
And I'm the captain. You can call me Tyler.
And it's time to ready up.
I did the double this time. I was anticipating it.
I'm just switching.
You're doing it on purpose, aren't you? You're just like I can see it. I can tell he's about to do the double, and I'm gonna do one. You're gonna get me like in a week from now, and I'll be like, it's time to ready up, and you'll just be like, why are you doing finger guns?
What the fuck, Tyler? Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's always good to be back. And today we are talking about all things comedy.
Comedy genre.
We're talking about things that make us laugh.
Exactly, because who doesn't like a good laugh?
Laughing is very important to me. It makes us all feel a little bit better inside.
I say who doesn't like a good laugh, but there's probably someone out there, because everything's possible, right? So like someone out there, like laughing is like probably actually painful for them, and that's gotta suck.
Yeah, it's probably some deep-seated trauma they have or whatever.
Suck.
That would suck.
Or like the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker that had like the disorder. That would suck.
That would.
But other than that, let's talk about comedy and be happy because it releases endorphins. I gotta tell you, this is what I was gonna tell you before we start recording.
Yeah.
It was so awkward for me last week with you not here because you're always the one that like
introduces everything.
You do the intro part, right? And so I'm sitting there before I hit the record button with Dan, and I'm just like, what the fuck do I say again? I'm just used to be like, I'm the captain. You can call me Tyler, And like I'm like, I gotta introduce the whole show. Like, what? This isn't my job. That's his job.
Well, starting the warm up.
On that, let's get into the warm up.
Going into the warm up, I am very glad to be back. Had a nasty cold. Didn't want to get people sick. I probably could have done stuff with people and like gone out, but a lot of it was that I didn't want to get people sick, and I was just feeling really crappy and stuff. But I got to see people all week. I got to go back to the store and do F&M, and I'm here recording again, and it feels so good to be back. I went to my classes instead of staying home, which was nice. It was a good week. Glad to be better.
Get back into the routine.
Yeah, get back into the swing of things.
It's always good.
What's your warm-up today, Tyler?
Man, my warm-up is, talking about like last week's episode, which was about the MGC with Dan. I mean, we are just prepping so hard for the show. Super excited. I missed the one in November. I'm just in love with the fact of being able to actually be there this time, help run the events for you guys, provide some really good magic content at a show where, there's going to be so many things that people can do.
Tons of things.
That, for people to show up and do stuff at our event, it's very humbling and very flattering, for that to happen because, you're choosing that over, the tons of other things that could be done. So it's really cool. So
I'm really excited for that weekend. I just bought my very important gamer pass the other day, and I'm super excited to go. This is going to be my first time going to an MGC, and I'm thrilled.
Yeah, we don't know an exact time yet, too, and so anybody that's actual fans of the show, I guess. I mean, I don't know if we have fans, but if you're a fan of the show, the podcast here, we will set up a time where me and Spencer will be together in our area, and for people to come by and talk to us, about the podcast. Mm-hmm. We'd love for you to come by and give us ideas, give us your reviews.
Yeah.
Just don't throw a tomato or anything, please.
I mean, feel free to throw like tomato sauce if it's like with pasta and something.
Well, yeah,
I could totally go for that.
Yeah, catch it in your mouth like the shrimp at hibachi.
Yeah. Well, coming out of this week's warm-up, we're getting into today's meat and potatoes. It's the campaign, everybody, and we're talking about all things comedy, everything that makes you laugh in this world. And there's a lot of different kind of comedy out there. I mean, you've got your stand-up, you've got, with your more modern forms, you've got your TikToks and your YouTube React content, you've got your YouTube Shorts or your you know, all of the TikTok like lookalikes.
Yeah. And then you got things like Viva the Dirt League, for example.
Oh, I love those guys.
That that's their whole thing. You know, their whole thing is they make short little episodes.
Yeah,
and stuff.
little skits and stuff. I mean, that kind of thing is what birthed YouTube, really, with people like Nigahiga, for example.
Yep.
And then you've also got like your more like classical like television type comedy with your like sitcoms and stuff.
And your rom-coms.
Yep.
And things like that. So I mean, the genre is huge, and that's what it's awesome. And we talk about all the time how things that you can nerd out or geek out on with us. That's what we want to talk about. And there are people who that's their life.
Yeah.
I mean, I have friends who are stand-up comedians. I have a buddy, haven't seen him in years. I don't think he does social media, so I would contact him. But his name is Justin West. We went to high school together, and that boy is hilarious. That man is hilarious. I call him a boy because that's how I remember him, sort of. But I did see some of his stand-up stuff after high school, and he was, just a genius. So
awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've loved comedy for as long as I can remember. I think my first like big introduction into like something purely comedic is Jeff Dunham.
Jeff Dunham, okay, yeah. The puppet master.
Yeah, when I was really little, he was not really little. I would say I was probably like 8 or 9 when he was just coming out with Ahmed.
Oh my gosh, that again, the whole dating thing, like you're like, I was like 8 or 9, I'm like, I was in my 20s, and yeah.
But yeah, I've always loved Jeff Dunham, and there's a lot of stand up out there that I'm a big fan of.
Oh yeah.
There's like Gabriel Iglesias. There's I love Kevin Hart. Love Kevin Hart.
Kevin's great. Some of my personal favorites. No longer with us, but Mitch Hedberg was my favorite comedian of all time. Like, if you've never seen any of Mitch's work, I'll introduce you to it after this. It's amazing. It's like, he would do stupid jokes like, I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to as well. Just are things like, he's talking about like the belt and the pant loops, right? He's like, who's the real hero? Are the belt loops holding the belt up, or is the belt holding the pants up? Just stuff like that, man. It's just like so. It was like borderline dad jokes, but not really.
Yeah.
So I love Mitch Hedberg. My favorite comedian currently that I love watching is Taylor Tomlinson. She is.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me.
She is just amazing. She had a Netflix special a couple years ago called Quarter Life Crisis, and then she has one now called Look at You. And I really love her because she takes real issues, and which a lot of good comedians do this. I'm not saying I'm not taking away from anybody, but she talks about like her mental health issues and things like that, and how it applied to her life, and how her life's different and things like that. And she's amazing. Like, she's the one person I want to go see right now. Then locally, like from a local standpoint, Charlie Barron's actually just had a show last night. Oh
yeah, I love Charlie Barron's.
Charlie is amazing. He does the Man Who Walk Minute and some other things online, and he's just hilarious. But speaking of Charlie, that goes into the other things that we were talking about, like the YouTube shorts and different things like that. So you have like the Holderness family, you have Dude Dad, like all these people that they actually collaborate now too, which is really cool. And they're people from different regions, because I know like the Holderness family, I think, is from North Carolina. Not exactly sure where Dude Dad is from. I can't remember. And then Charlie's like from here. But they'll have videos. Like, there's a video of them all like they walked out on their front porch and they're in the same neighborhood and they're talking to each other, but they're actually in like different states and nowhere close to each other, but they're acting like they're neighbors, and like it's just really great content.
Yeah, so. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I was thinking one way we might sort of segment up, since there is so many different kinds of comedy, one way we might segment up this this episode here is by sort of dividing it into what's our favorite stand-up, and then what's our favorite like more short form type of skit type stuff, and then what's our favorite like traditional like sitcom or rom-com type of stuff, and then go into like maybe even movies and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
So as far as stand-up goes, that was my first, or one of my first big introductions into comedy with, Jeff Dunham, but then, later came Kevin Hart, Gabriel Iglesias, really big fan of Bo Burnham, who grew on YouTube at first, but then he started getting into the stand-up scene with his stuff.
Bo was hilarious.
Bo's an absolute genius. And then you've got, Dave Chappelle. There's a lot of stand-up comedians out there, and I don't actually watch a lot of stand-up, but I do really like getting clips of stand-up.
Yeah.
Because the way I just consume media is often in the form of smaller bits of content on social media.
Well, and that's why you'll see that. You'll see that on you scrolling through your Facebook feed.
Yep.
I follow certain comedians and stuff. Taylor, being one of them, like I talked about. There's what is his last name?
One of the ones that I follow on Facebook. I've never seen him live.
Mark Normand is his name.
Mark Normand.
Mark Normand is hilarious as well. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
One of the ones that I like to follow on Facebook is I can't remember his name, but he has a speech impediment, and he was on America's Got Talent a few years ago and almost won. I'm gonna look him up real quick.
Does he just have the speech impediment? Because one that's been on there before, and he was on Last Comic Standing as well. His name is Josh Blue, and he has the disease where it's not muscular dystrophy. It's maybe it is. No, but anyway, Josh is really good as well. But there was one that you talked about that has the speech impediment. I think I know you're talking about that was on AGT.
Drew Lynch.
Drew Lynch, yes.
I've never seen a full special of his. I've never seen him in person, but man, he is hilarious. I love watching clips and stuff of his stand up, whether it's on his Facebook or I find it on YouTube or whatever. I've never seen any of his full specials, but Bert Kreischer.
Oh yeah, Bert Kreischer's hilarious.
I love Bert Kreischer. I love the Machine story.
Dude,
that's what everyone knows him for, really.
He's awesome, and what's really cool about that is another thing that I'm into, which is disc golf. He's gotten into disc golf lately. So,
oh really?
Yeah. So I'm on disc golf pages, and then I see Bert pop up, and I'm like, what? This is weird. It's cool how the crossovers. We talked about with Post Malone and Magic, and just different things like that. How it's really cool to see some of your favorite celebrities have common interests with things that you do.
Yeah.
From a more personal level too, as far as stand-up comics go, I have a really good personal friend. His name is G.R. Godwin. He now lives in Florida. He's originally from Atlanta. Lived in Chattanooga with us for a long time. Me and G.R. actually used to go out and play golf together all the time, stuff like that. But he actually has a show tonight, or maybe he had it last night at it's called the Comedy Catch back in Chattanooga, where I'm from. And he was headlining, and GR is I loved spending time with GR because being that he is a comedian, you don't go more than 10 minutes without just laughing till you cry when you're with this guy, because he can turn everything that's going on around you into something hilarious. And so I would love hanging out with GR all the time. And so I miss you, buddy. If you ever happen to see my podcast, shout you out. You go check him out. He is on Facebook. But yeah, there's so many good stand-ups that, and you go back into the day, right? So people like Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy with Raw, things like that coming out of the 70s into the 80s and early 90s, stand-up became huge. Steve Harvey, that's how he got his start, the original Kings of Comedy with him and Cedric and Bernie Mac and people like that just had great, amazing stand-up careers and turned them into, what they do now. And you were talking about, you said Kevin Hart. Kevin started as stand-up and then got into movies and things like that.
And it's really cool to see a lot of stand-up comedians, which this isn't new. It's really cool to see a lot of stand-up comedians diversify into those other things, right? Mm-hmm. Like Kevin Hart getting into movies and stuff. I absolutely love Kevin Hart in movies. I think he's an absolute genius.
Oh yeah.
And when I first saw his stand up, I'm like, man, this guy's funny. And then he came out with Ride Along, which was his first movie, and
Ice Cube.
And that was absolutely like blew my fucking socks off.
Kevin
Just
amazing.
banger after banger. It was great.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, he was amazing. Shoot, there was somebody that, because you mentioned it. Oh, so another one, that was from back in my day, was and something I just applied to my life. So Dane Cook was really huge when I was coming, out of high school in my early 20s. Dane was like the stand-up comedian at that time, right? And he had a stand-up called Vicious Circle, and I actually had it on CD. Like I would actually listen to it in my car, like and it was hilarious. Like he has this one stand-up bit where he's talking about that time where you need a good cry. Everyone has that time, and you feel it. You'll be like at work, people around you, and you're just like, I gotta hold it in, I gotta wait. And then you get in your car and you're driving home and you start to let it out a little bit, and you're looking around and you think everyone on the road is like looking at you, because that. And then you get home, you finally just let it out, and you just like, he talks about like you have that one phrase that you just latch onto. And his was all like, I did my best, and it's just, and then like, he's talking about his mom calls, he's like, no, mom, I'm fine, no, so it's, his delivery on it, though, was amazing, and the reason I loved it was because, so the movie, or the whole stand-up, the special was called Vicious Circle, because he was in the middle, I want to say it was Madison Square Garden, he was in the middle of Madison Square Garden with everybody around him, as opposed to like your normal stage setup, where everyone was in front of you. Like everyone's around him, so he's constantly having to turn and like engage. And he did such a great job with it. Like he was so good at engaging every bit of the audience. In that special. So, yeah. Some people. And here's the thing, too, guys. Look, we've brought up some comedians. The other thing about comedians is they're some of them are controversial. We talked about Dave Chappelle. Dane Cook has had some things in his life. Kevin Hart had some things, whatever. Not you don't have to like everybody that we like, and everyone's going to have their opinions. We're not interested in that, from this episode. We want to hear your opinions on the positive side of things. But nothing. If you put something in the comments about, this person is racist, whatever. That's everyone's entitled to those opinions, but we're just going to kind of ignore those and pass by. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, stand-up, is an amazing genre of comedy. But of course, it's not the only one. Like you talked about. So I mean, when you talk about movies, in general, what's really funny about movies is there are certain characters built into certain scripts that are literally called the comic relief.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a serious movie or drama, whatever, like. There's certain dramas you'll be watching, but there's always that one scene where someone says something funny. It's just because comedy is so universal that you can install it just wherever.
Yeah, and that's a really important part to movies, because one of the things actually when you look at structuring entertainment, whatever kind of entertainment, a lot of what you have to build into it is series of ups and downs, right? You have to raise and lower energy at a moment's notice.
Yeah, because
right?
you can't keep it up here all the time.
Yeah, because if you keep it up here, that becomes the status quo, and then you don't have anything to compare it to, and it doesn't drive our brains in the same way, which is why it's become structured in such a way. That's actually something I learned when I was learning how to give, or learning public speaking. But, that was built into, how we learned how to do that, but also that is built into any kind of entertainment, especially in movies. And so movies, not only do they have to, like, bring it ups and downs, but they also have to bring different types, right? So you have to have the action followed by, like, inaction followed by something. And oftentimes that other something is comic relief of some kind. So, you get your, like, Michael Bay films with, like, big action movies. And there's often a lot of comedic relief in those, like, in the downtime between action sequences, because that is his specific way of rise and fall.
One of my favorite movies of all time, and probably a movie that it's probably in my top 5 of most watched, is Bad Boys, with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
Yeah,
like, it's amazing. It's meant to be an action movie. There's a theme behind it. They're trying to catch a drug dealer and all this stuff. Everything, but there's so much comedic relief throughout the movie because you have these two great actors, especially Martin, who was also a stand-up comedian at one point. And so it's like that movie is great because it has big action and calms you down a little bit, and comedy and then big action, and it's just like it's amazing. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, and talking about like specifically like for comedy movies, there's tons of options out there, and like I think one of the first ones that I saw was Scary Movie 4.
Okay, like parodies. Yeah, parodies are great.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's also so many subgenres,
For sure.
But parodies, obviously, Scary Movie. I really liked Epic Movie.
Yeah, Not Another Teen Movie was one of my favorites.
That one's good.
I just love Chris Evans in general.
That's fair.
As an actor.
It's hard. It's America's ass.
It is America's ass. He's just aside from being a good-looking person and a great human being. He's just such a great actor. Like, he is. He's really awesome, and a lot of people know him as Captain America with that stoic type thing. That he played that role really well. But a lot of his earlier stuff was him being funny.
Yeah.
Not Another Teen Movie. His first Marvel casting, which was Johnny, the Human Torch from Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. He was the comedic relief in that. Stuff like that. Like. So yeah, I mean, I love parody movies like that. Another comedic genius that we can mention is Adam Sandler and all of his Happy Madison movies. So like you have Billy Madison, you have Happy Gilmore, you have things like Grandma's Boy that he wasn't even in, but his crew and those people were in, and you took support actors and made them the main actor in this movie, and the movie's still hilarious, because it's part of his whole company. Yeah, and a lot of people give shit to Adam Sandler movies because he kind of pumps them out, right? He does a lot of them, but also like I'm unashamed in saying that I love a lot of them. I love Grown Ups. Oh yeah.
I really liked Click.
Dude, Click.
I really liked
Click was actually
the Gumball
one
or whatever.
The Click was one of the better ones because it was comedic, but it told like a
it was also like kind of dark.
It was it told a really good story and understanding like we don't have that rewind button, we don't have the pause button in our lives and things like that. We but he got to see that from that outside perspective and how. If you had if you could go back and watch a movie of your life, would you change different things or would you do things differently? Mm-hmm. And, a lot of us would, sometimes be based on some decisions in our life. So, it was really more of a drama in a sense.
It kind of was.
But the comedy in it was amazing.
The comedy in it was really good. And another one I really liked from him was Bedtime Stories.
That's the Gumball one you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Every time I think of that movie, I remember really, really liking it when I was little. I saw it a lot of times. The only thing I can actively remember about it was the gumballs.
Yeah.
That's the only part.
Yeah.
So whenever I can't think of the name of the movie, I just say Adam Sandler's Gumball movie.
Yeah, you got that one. But then there's movies like Big Daddy, which again it's a comedy, but it's also like a hit your heart movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because of the relationship between him and the kids and stuff, and I love that movie because, like, even though it's meant to be like, there was a scene in the movie where it was funny, where he was like, I can wipe my own ass, right? But then they turned that same comedic line into a very sad part of the movie, because they're taking the kid away, but he's like, I can wipe my own ass, it was just like a tear your heart out kind of moment,
Yeah.
with a comedic line. Like, that's genius to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I can't even believe we've gotten 25 minutes into this episode without mentioning Robin Williams.
well,
Because, we have his stand-up, we have his movies.
Sometimes they save the GOAT for last, but that's okay.
I mean, that's fair.
But Robin was a...
I loved him in so many movies. I was thinking initially about, how you have, like, more serious movies or more, like, action movies, but with a lot of comedy built into it. And I was thinking of the board game movie... Jumanji. I was thinking about Jumanji with him.
And the remakes are actually really good, too, but his original was great.
The original was so awesome.
Fun fact, first movie me and Christy ever saw together was the remake of Jumanji.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I still haven't seen any of the remakes of Jumanji.
We have both on DVD.
Oh, nice. We'll have to watch them sometime.
It's a commemorative thing for us,
Yeah.
But no, yeah, Jumanji was great. One of my... so going back to the stand-up thing, talking about that, that was actually my first introduction to stand-up comedy that I can remember is The Scotsman in Golf.
That's my favorite.
Robin Williams.
Like my favorite single bit in a stand-up. That is it.
Scotsman in Golf.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it, guys, go look up. It's on YouTube. You can find it.
It is historic.
It is. It is definitely like one of like
so good.
the best stand-up bits I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and so I remember I said something about having the CD for Dane Cook. My mom had a tape, a cassette tape. This is how old I am. Had a cassette tape of Robin Williams in that stand-up, and other things were on there too. But that's one of the ones that I just remember because the way he was talking like the Scotsman and stuff. And that as a kid, I was just like,
funny.
yeah, it was just
so good.
yeah. So yeah, Robin Williams was it was amazing.
Something else relating to stand-up that I actually wanted to mention because it kind of struck me, and I like challenged myself to like fight the theory, but the theory is like very true for the most part. Stand-up, if done really well, and like there's like a sort of like there's the middle ground where like yeah that's good. There's the exceptional, like, really good stuff. But if you're, like, in between those, like, just, like, on the upper spectrum, stand-up done really, really well, you aren't going to remember it. You're not going to remember what was said. And it's really interesting because a lot of what the people who sit in that category do, they carry the energy of the crowd, right? And that's what makes it so funny in the moment. But when I've been to stand-up or seen stand-up specials, stuff that's, like, exceptional, I can remember that. Stuff that's, like, in that middle ground where they just carry the crowd, I don't remember any of it.
And that's true. But I as someone, and I did some open mic nights, I'm not a stand-up comedian. I think I'm a pretty funny guy amongst my friends. I do a pretty good job of making you guys laugh a lot of times just because I'm an idiot, but
it's true.
But like every bit is meant to be good. It's just like every song that's getting written, it gets written by a musician, right?
Yeah.
They want it to be good, and it's good to them in that moment or whatever. But yeah, not everything is going to stick. It's like you can throw a bunch of rice at a wall. Not every grain's gonna stick to the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just how it is. I get what you're saying. As far as there's plenty of unmemorable stand-up bits, but there's still plenty that are really great. There's another like stand-up comedian that's not really big time or super well known, but he's at least good enough. His name's Mike Godwin, and I love the guy because he's hilarious. He's a black guy, and I can say that because he says it. But he dresses in like cardigans and a bow tie and looks like super nerdy. But he's also like this big athletic looking dude, and it's really funny.
So it's like if Steve Urkel got like ripped.
Yeah, for sure, and became a comedian. Yeah, but like one of Mike's bits that he talks about is like people are always asking him, why Mike, why are you so dressed up? He's like, I'm not. This is police repellent. He was like I never matched the description. Like they see me drive a black man in the car, pull him over. Oh, are you wearing a cardigan? Oh, sorry, just slow down. Exactly. Like, and that's not like a super huge memorable bit. You know what I'm saying? But I remember it just because it's one of those funny moments. But yeah,
funny,
or like, dude. Okay, and speaking of comedy, okay, and we're talking about big stars, all this stuff. I gotta mention the comedic moment of the night on Friday night. Do you remember what happened? You'll remember when I tell you. We have this kid. Love you to death, man. He's a just always there Friday nights, always supporting the shop, and he's still in high school and stuff, and we just, we appreciate you, Ryan. So Ryan, because he's a minor, I won't mention his last name, but Ryan, comes to the shop. So, we have the whole policy, no drinks on tables that don't have a lid for the reason of if you knock it over, it could spill. So he's got his Taco Bell cup sitting next to his foot, accidentally kicks it over. And, I saw it, I was like, man, that's why we don't keep the drinks on the table, just joking around with him. So we go up to the counter, I was like, I got some paper towels, come on. And he's like, Tyler, I'm so sorry, don't worry about it. I said, man, don't worry about it, accidents happen. He looks me dead in the eye and goes, yeah, my parents know all about that.
I wasn't part of that conversation. I didn't hear that. I heard a lot of people cracking up. I figured
I was bent over. I was hurting. I was laughing so hard.
I was just in the middle of a game, but that's hilarious.
I was laughing so hard that my stomach was hurting because he just deadpanned it, like no hesitation. I was just like, it's okay, buddy, accidents happen. And he's like, my parents know all about that. I'm so sorry. Like it was the greatest self-burn I'd heard. I felt the heat off of that one. I was like, oh my gosh, man. And then a little bit later, we were joking around and I made a comment about happy little accident or something like that. And he was like, you're not Bob Ross. I said, but your dad apparently was. Things like that. So.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, tons of different movies. Some are laced with comedy, like we talked about. Mm-hmm. Some are yeah, we're here to make you laugh. That's the goal.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and then going into other kinds of comedy, I kind of want to talk a little bit about musical comedy. Because we talked a little bit about Burnham earlier, who's mainly kind of in the stand-up realm.
Yeah.
But all of his stand-up is also in the form of music.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of his songs just on my playlist that I listen to because it's all good songwriting on top of just being hilarious.
Oh, Bo's hilarious. Another one that is a musical comedian is Rodney Carrington.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever heard any of his stuff.
I've heard a couple.
He's more in the country realm, so a lot of people, he's a country comedian. But he has so many good things. One of my favorite ones it's called Little Things. It's Little Things That Piss Me Off is actually what it's called. But the first one, he's singing about. All right, you guys gotta excuse my singing, but it's the only way to tell the story. So he's like, when I'm sitting on the toilet in a house that I don't know, looking all around me where the toilet paper go, I'm feeling real uneasy. I'm feeling real uncertain, 'cause I gotta wipe my butt again with a shower curtain, And I'm just like, what? Can you imagine? And so this is what comedy does for us, right? Is so you think about that line, and I'm just imagining Spencer came over and couldn't find the toilet paper, and I go to take a shower, later, and it's like, what? Why is there shit on my shower curtain?
What happened?
What happened? I'm gonna be blaming my wife. I'll be like, babe, are you okay? Did you shit in the shower? What is going on here? And we're both just gonna look at each other confused,
It wasn't me, I swear.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, Yeah, like so Rodney has like
That's really funny.
some really great comedic songs, and
Yeah.
Bo like you're right though. Like,
I've memorized many of his songs. My favorite one is "Ironic."
oh yeah,
My favorite, one of my favorite parts of that is like just the intro.
yeah.
Like, I don't remember. It was funny enough. My grandmother, she was a cancer, and she actually was killed by a giant crab. It's just like, but yeah, a lot of his songs are great, and I think of one of my first. I think this is definitely not just one of, definitely my first introduction into comedic music. Weird Al Yankovic. I love his stuff. Eat It, Yoda, Amish Paradise.
Oh man, I mean, his stuff goes all the way back to the late '70s.
Oh yeah, he's been around
early '80s,
forever.
right? So funny story because Weird Al is like one of my favorite comedians and just personalities in general.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story that he told one time when he was being interviewed about when he knew he made it in the music industry, right? Or just in the industry in general. He gets invited to this like Hollywood after party or whatever, and again, he doesn't feel like he's that status, right? And he's just like feeling kind of out of place. Shows up to this party and hears from across the room, "It's Weird Al! It's Weird Al, guys!" The person yelling is Paul McCartney.
I remember you telling me the story. I never heard him tell that story.
So for those who don't know, the younger generation, Paul McCartney was one of the Beatles.
Yeah.
If you don't know who the Beatles are, you're way too young to be watching this.
It's true, yeah.
Go turn on a cartoon or something.
Yeah, go back to Coco Melon.
Yeah. Peppa the Pig, something like that. But yeah, anyway, Weird Al, oh my gosh. His writing, which, okay, and because you hear criticism over the years and things like that, right? Like the worst criticism I've ever heard about Weird Al is, well, he already has a baseline to work off of to make these songs because he has the beat, he has the rhythm of the song and things like that. It's like, okay, that is a fact that he has that baseline, but he has to take this popular song that people already know the words to, know everything, and completely change the lyrics to make it into like something that's actually going to make people laugh. Mm-hmm. That's not as easy as people think.
Yeah, it isn't. And in like you also hear that kind of criticism for cover artists.
Yeah.
Specifically, I hear that a lot for Pentatonics because they don't write any of their own music.
They have some.
Really?
Yeah,
I've not heard any.
Their Christmas. I think some of their Christmas special stuff was.
Okay.
Was for sure. Like they have a couple of their own songs, but they usually do covers. Yeah.
Yeah. So
when they were first coming up, that's all they did was covers.
Yes, that's definitely true. So but even though there is that criticism, it's like there also has even if it's not purely original, something we know of in the entertainment industry, and what comedy is really about it's about relating things, right?
Yeah.
It's about building off of existing experience because we're laughing about stuff because we're imagining being in a situation that this comedian is in, or they're building a situation that we can relate to somehow comedically, and so knowing that inherently, that's what comedy is. Weird Al took something and changed it in such a way where it was funny, and that's the core of it. So if you want to, from a musical standpoint, I think it's a somewhat valid criticism, but it's also that doesn't detract from the amount of creativity that has to go into something like that, and it doesn't detract from the amount of recognition that someone like Weird Al or people like Pentatonics deserve, right? Because they change it in their own way and present it in such a way that it's different.
That's the point I was going to bring up. Is this? It's like if you go and you went, I'm sure there's computer program you could write out there, right? It's like that watches like all the YouTube videos, all these stand-ups, right? And could compare and be like 90% of the jokes are rewrites or just twists a little bit, like a little bit of detail change because it's a different person. Like there's so many different, there's only so much things that can happen in life, and be funny, right? The difference is how people deliver. Like delivery, that's what makes a great comedian.
Delivery matters so much.
A great comedian is how you deliver it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, just because he, we're talking about Weird Al, right? Just because he had that background and something to lay it on, he had to deliver. Like when you talk about things like, there's Amish Paradise, like you talked about. There's the Star Wars ones. Just like all kinds of stuff, and then going back to, like I said, the Michael Jackson ones with "Eat It" and "Bad" and stuff like that, or "I'm Fat" instead of "I'm Bad," just things like that. Like he still had to make those songs, and like in those songs again, like "Eat It" and "I'm Fat." Okay, you're talking about Michael Jackson songs, man, and that in the era where he made those songs were like the most popular songs of their time, and he was able to make a parody of it that was to this day classic now.
Yeah.
It's like that is not an easy thing to do whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, if you think it's easy, go do it. Show me.
Yeah.
Like
I'll tell you this. My dad's really fond of writing parodies. He does it a lot. Weird Al is like a big inspiration for him, and me and him have actually sat down to write some before, because every year we go up to college. Or a get together with his old frat bros, right? Mm-hmm. We go up to Escanaba up in Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula, and
the UP,
and we like hang out. We just like play cards, drink beer, all that fun stuff, and they do that like just themselves in the winter. On Labor Day weekend, they bring family, right? And so I've been doing that since I was like 6. And there's
those first 5 years I just left you behind.
Yeah,
it's like once I got old enough,
yeah,
they brought me with.
But and so what was interesting is like there's also one of the college frat bros that's also like family reunion for their family, and they have a cabin next to the college frat bros cabin. So like there's like this big family, and then frat bros of one of the family members that all come up with their families. So it's like this massive group of people. And there's a talent show every year. And so like I would do skits sometimes, I would do this and that with whatever. But one time me and my dad wrote a parody of I don't remember the song. It was a song that I'd never heard before. It was an older song. But me and my dad were like best friends with Chris and Shen. Chris is his frat brother. Shen is a year younger than me, and so me and him were really good friends going up to this the cabin, and we end the song ribbing them by saying, "But thank God we're not Chris and Shen," and and so like writing that song was really hard. It took a lot of work, and like the delivery was also matter. And like going back to like how delivery matters to it, it's like there's a really funny joke that you hear and you want to tell everyone about it because it was hilarious, and you say it and it just like doesn't hit because you don't have the delivery down like the person you were listening to, or maybe the person you're talking to doesn't have the context. And so like when you're talking about comedy in this way, it's so important that you have the delivery method. Yeah. And that's a big part of that skill.
And that's one of the things, like I said, I did some I guess I did some open mic nights, things like that. I could never do it professionally, but one of the things that, for people who do know me, my business partner Andy, yourself, like, people like hearing my stories.
Your stories are fantastic.
I have stories, and I deliver my stories as if I'm delivering, a comedic set a lot of times.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love to do is, have those stories. And a lot of those stories came from situations where, some of them weren't, but some of them were like for example, I brought up my friend Adam before, Adam Lloyd. Love you, brother. I hope you watch this at some point. He was, he's been a friend of mine since I was like 17 years old. And he's one of the people I call a brother. Anyway, me and Adam and Jason and Eric and Big Mike and them, we'd all sit around and talking about the musical side of it. We used to freestyle rap to different beats and try to make up like funny raps like that. Just talking about different things. Like there was one time where like there was a banana peel in the trash can, and that's what we rapped about. I rapped about this banana peel, but I made it into this funny story. Just stuff like that. Like you just sit around and do that, but it's not easy. It's not easy in the least. You're sitting there trying to figure out like, how do I make something about a banana peel funny. But yeah, I went back with the old comedic whoop. Slipping on a banana peel, but I mean, it had to have happened, right? It had to be like on a linoleum floor or something, though, right? Like no one like slipped on a banana peel like on asphalt, did they? I mean, I know it's a Mario Kart thing, but. Way off subject, I know. Sorry. I think about weird shit.
If the banana peel's been sitting there long enough, it could be slimy.
Could be.
And that will slip on pretty much anything.
Could be. Another thing in comedy I want to talk about, and we brought it up, we're talking about different forms and different media. We've talked about stand-up. We've talked about movies. We've talked about...
Before we move, I have to bring up one more music comedy thing.
Sure.
Epic rap battles.
Oh my god.
I was going to tie it in with Weird Al because Weird Al actually collabed with him at one point. He played Sir Isaac Newton.
Yes, he did.
Versing off against Bill Nye. And that was, I mean, I still anticipate every ERB to come out, and I've got a bunch of them on my playlist that I listen to.
I know one of them's name is Peter.
Peter and Lloyd.
Lloyd, that's his name.
Yeah, Epic Peter and nice Peter and Epic Lloyd.
Epic Lloyd. Peter and Lloyd.
Absolute
dude, and
legends.
They took a break for a while.
Yeah,
they took a big break for a while. And
they took a multi-year break.
I have not seen any of their newer content yet.
Oh, we're listening to some after this.
Okay,
we have
definitely.
It's mandatory.
But I mean, the Darth Vader one.
Oh yeah, the one. I think it was their second ever episode, and then they did it another 2 times after that. Yeah. Darth Vader versus Adolf Hitler.
Yep, the very first one that I saw was...
I've memorized all 3 of them.
Was the Darth Vader versus Adolf. And I mean, bro, and it's awesome because at the end it's like, who won? And it's like, you see all the comments of people voting, and it's just like, that particular one, I was just like, I don't know. Because they both burned each other so hard, like, worse than Vader was already burned.
Right. I just love the line, so many dudes been with your mom, who even knows if I'm your father?
Yeah, exactly. Well, or like, you
need a vacation. Here, take a trip on my train.
Yeah, or like, that's what I was gonna bring. Like the dark humor was like, he's like, you need a shower,
you need to wash up, dog. Here, step in my shower.
Yeah, I'm just like, God dang, like. So some of that, some of the comedy borderlines again on controversial.
Oh, definitely. I don't know if they could safely come out with Darth Vader versus Hitler today.
So that brings me to a segue into what I was going to bring up next. Actually, is one of my favorite games to play. Mm-hmm. It's Cards Against Humanity.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and the child version of Apples to Apples.
But dude, we did a naughty Apples to Apples one night where you had to try to make it as as
dirty as possible.
Dirty or as, not dirty, just like as adult as you could. Like try to make it as close to Cards vs. Humanity, as you could, with Apples to Apples, and it's possible. It's definitely possible. Even with the child version, like you talked about, but. That's one of my favorite games. So, like, when our friends Amanda and Joel and Corrine and Matt come over, that's normally what we all sit around my table upstairs and play is Cards Against Humanity.
I love Cards Against Humanity.
And it's hilarious because, again, you guys saw my wife on one of the episodes. She's very, if you know her in person, she's a very, shy and seems very innocent, type person. She wins most of the time. Because she'll be like, this doesn't really make sense, but I'm going to do it. And it's the funniest fucking thing on the table. And she's just like, I feel so bad saying this, And then it's like, what? Dude, because she's a beautiful human being and a wonderful, wonderful person. But she thinks so literally about so much stuff that, that's where she's like, this doesn't make sense. But like for us, we're like, that makes complete sense. Like, to be funny. She's like, but it's not literal. Like, like, no, that's what,
That's the point. It's not supposed to be literal.
Yeah, not all things are literal, And, but yeah, dude, like Cards Against Humanity, and you said apples to apples, but there's a lot of games out there that are meant to have that comedic feel as well. Even certain versions of like where you got to draw stuff. What's it called? Not Pictionary, but there's
ones on the internet like Scribble.io and
yeah, stuff like that where you've got to like draw. Yeah. So speaking of that, so like one of my favorite YouTubers I love to watch, his name is Cartoons with a Z. Really got into him when Among Us was out, but they'll play these other games where it's like there was one where there's a phrase and you have to try to draw the stuff to guess the phrase, and then that person has to say what they think the thing was for the next person to draw it. And it's like Telephone. Remember the old game Telephone where it's like Spencer eats boogers, right? You say that to somebody first, and it gets around to like Spencer smells his own poop, or like by the time the last person, or it might even be Spencer at that point. It could be someone else,
Yeah.
But like it was a game of like Telephone, but with drawing.
That's funny.
And I don't remember the name of the game, but it was hilarious. It was awesome to watch, and I literally would go to sleep sometimes just with YouTube on, watching them play this game and laughing my ass off until I fell asleep. So yeah, I mean, comedy's out there in so many aspects of our lives.
Yeah, and going more into games, there's plenty of video games out there too, not just like Scribblio that are like comedic based. I think of things like Battle Block Theater. I think of.
You're not old enough, so you probably won't remember this game. I want to see if you mentioned it though. Go ahead.
One of my favorite video game franchises, Borderlands, which is big into like the action and it's like a first-person shooter and everything, but there's so many comedic elements to it, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Conkers. You probably don't know who Conkers is. Conkers was this squirrel, and it was just a very, very hilarious game. Like one of the things you had to do in the game was like roll a big pile of shit. Roll, like you had to keep rolling this ball to make it. Have like the snowball effect.
Yeah.
You're just rolling this turd until you can get a big enough turd to like do stuff like. And then there's another one that's an old franchise as well. It's called Leisure Suit Larry, but the entire concept of the game is, now I played the later version. There was an original version that was like late 80s, early 90s for PC. The later version, which I played on Xbox, was the nephew of the original Leisure Suit Larry, and he's in college, and your entire goal is to get him laid. That's your entire goal in the game, is like you're trying to hit on these different girls in different ways. Like one, for example, is this girl that is really good at quarters. Like there was a quarter bounce game in the game, but she was super good, and it was whoever could get who drunk first. And I spent freaking hours trying to beat this chick at quarters because she never missed. Unless you like hit her with like 2 shots in a row, then she might miss, But like it was just like drunk meter and stuff. Yeah, and then there's like
it's funny.
But yeah, I mean, there's things like that are in games where it's just like meant to have that, and then there's games that just like you said have like comedic relief and like cutscenes and things like that. So
one of my favorite funny games to play is Mount Your Friends.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm not going to go into detail on, but if you're a fan of something mildly lewd and fun to play with a friend,
yeah, it's mildly lewd, but it's also like I feel like that's like that's a drunk game. Like you want to play with your friends, like while you're drunk, especially because then it's like. Because the controls on it are fucking crazy. Like,
controls are awful. Intentionally, mind you. They are intentionally difficult.
But that's why I want to play it while I'm drunk, because then I feel like it's normal. It's like, oh yeah, this makes sense now. I
actually got really good at that game.
I believe it.
But that goes also into, like you said, one of those drunk games. There's a lot of games out there that are like, you could definitely play them as serious games, but they're co-op. And if you're just like fucking around with a friend, they're incredibly funny games. recently, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye have been playing a game where you are astronauts trying to fix a space station. And it has, like, kind of wonky controls to it. And it's so fucking funny to watch them play it. Because they're, like, fucking around the whole time, You could play that game very seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, it would be fine. But they don't. And, those kinds of games are hilarious to play around with. And, like, the intention of the game is clearly, like, in that realm of drunk game.
Oh, yeah.
Another game that reminds me of would be Gang Beasts.
I wonder if this is a game. Okay, so there's another guy that I like to watch. His name is Mr. Fruit.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever watched Mr. Fruit, but Mr. Fruit's a gamer. I learned about Mr. Fruit and Dado back in the day when I used to play Destiny all the time because they're big Destiny players. They're amazing. But he just started a second channel for his other game content because he wants to focus on FPSs on one and then other stuff. But he played with a group of people like Shark and Dado and all them, and there's a game that they were playing. I forgot what it's called, but you're literally these like stuffed animals that like walk around looking like you're drunk, bobbleheaded, but the point is to beat each other up to the point where you can knock each other like off the side.
So that's very similar to Gang Beasts. I know what game you're talking about, but I've never played it.
I can't remember the name of it.
It's new. It's a lot newer than Gang Beasts is, but it's very, very similar. Gang Beasts, you are like little like blob people, and you have to like punch each other to knock each other out and like throw them off the ring.
Yeah.
It's
similar concept.
Based on the same thing, and that game is so funny.
Oh my god, dude!
Because the physics is just hilarious, and you get hit by trains and shit.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
Yeah, and like one of the maps that they were on was like this submarine that slowly starts to go into the water.
Oh, okay.
So you start out, it's up above water, and then it's like going through the water, but slowly, and so as time goes on, like you have to get to the top of the submarine, or you're gonna, and it basically like if you're in the water, it just drags you off and you die. And dude, I mean, and they would get like random weapon drops, like a stun gun. Or a tennis racket or something, and I love watching Fruit because he just be like yeet, yeet every time he like try to hit somebody, he'd miss, and he'd be yelling yeet just over and over again, and then when he finally hit, he go oh shit, like he actually hit somebody, and you gotta get them to basically exhaustion to where you can throw them overboard, like that. So it's really really cool.
Yeah, and going off of that, like, watching other people play video games, that kind of takes us into the realm of like more modern content with YouTube and Twitch and stuff being comedic mediums for people with I mentioned Markiplier and Jacksepticeye who are big on that. PewDiePie is big on that.
I mean, PewDiePie is huge.
Yeah. And Mr. Fruity and cartoons, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Fruity isn't Mr. Fruit, but it's okay.
Mr. Fruit, whatever. Mr. Fruity, whatever.
I mean, his symbol is a watermelon, so yeah.
Close enough.
Mr. Fruity.
And then you have people like Vanoss, who's been around forever.
Yeah, the whole Vanoss crew.
Yeah.
No, so the whole Vanoss crew. Remember I mentioned cartoons earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah. So him and H2O Delirious and all those guys. Those are the people that I was talking about that I would watch play Among Us, but then they also got into the other games.
Okay.
Yeah. Vanoss crew.
I haven't really watched Vanoss's crew in a long time, but so yeah, I wasn't aware of who cartoons was.
So the H2O, man, is when you talk about you want some comedy while watching some like video game play content, bro, watch Delirious. Like Delirious.
Yeah, Delirious is pretty funny.
Delirious is exceptionally funny, and I love the fact that no one's ever seen his face.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about him. I know that's like not a comedy thing, but like I love that like he doesn't want the celebrity. He doesn't want any of that. He just loves playing his games and putting his content out there and stuff like that. And of course, recently he's had a kid. I think actually the second one's either on the way or maybe they've had the second one now.
Wow.
I can't remember the name of his girlfriend, but she's a streamer too.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember her name now. I want to say it's like Cat or something. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sorry. But anyway, he'll talk about Babylirious, and there's this franchise that made a game for him that put Babylarius in the game, and the whole thing was like trying to keep up with the baby, but there was like some demon in the house or something, and all this, and like it was crazy, like watching this game, but it was hilarious.
Well, that reminds me of another game called Who's Your Daddy?
Oh God! Okay, tell me about this.
Okay, there's 2 players. One is a infant, and the other is a father. The father has to keep the baby from killing itself before mom gets home.
Oh my gosh! I know which game you're talking about. Oh my gosh! Yeah, and
that one's really fun.
Yeah, and so you're always tracking it down, making sure it doesn't get into this. And, oh my gosh! I've seen someone play that game. But yeah, I mean.
But talking about other people, Scene Anners. I've always loved watching Scene Anners.
Bro, I've known Scene Anners since the old Halo days, bro.
Yeah.
Like Scene Anners, Adam is hilarious.
I'm so glad he's back to YouTube.
Yeah.
But like specifically, I really liked watching him play The Hidden with his friends.
I haven't seen that content.
Oh.
Yet. I'll have to check it out. Scene Anners used to be, because again I told you I used to be really big into Halo and that scene, and so I knew Adam from those days.
Gotcha.
And, that was before he blew up and was a big on it was before he was doing YouTube and stuff like that. I mean, I knew him from playing like tournaments against him and stuff, so he's awesome.
Nice. And then one of the other people I really like to watch is KYR Speedy and the crew. KYR Speedy. KYR Speedy. He's hilarious. He and his friends are
KY
fucking.
will make you speedy.
There's D4, D20, G18, and sidearms. That whole crew is absolutely hilarious. I watch them on the regular.
Nice.
Good people, all of them. But yeah.
But like, just one more form, of media, because we keep talking about it and going off of that fact. Is the things like the TikToks and the YouTube shorts and things like that. So
short form content and skits.
Yeah, short form content and skits. So again, that's where I brought up like the Holderness family, Charlie Barron's, those people. They do that type of stuff. But then there are just some really good TikTokers out there that and I'll also actually my favorite ones to watch. I don't actually have TikTok, the app, on my phone. I have too many things on my phone that I deal with anyway. But when I'm scrolling through my Facebook feed, they'll come up as little videos, and my favorite ones to watch are the reaction ones.
Yeah,
those are my favorite ones because that 9 times out of 10 it's something comedic. It's going to be something funny, and yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I really like as far as like the short form content. I really like people who do skits. Whether it's with like groups of people or whether it's individuals playing multiple characters. Specifically, you mentioned them earlier. Viva La Dirt League is hilarious. They have a whole host of people who act on there, and they just come up with they get all in character and they have sets and everything. Those guys are absolutely hilarious. Whether it's their like NPCs.
Who's your favorite on Viva?
I don't know any of them by name.
No, you don't?
No, I don't.
Okay. Mine, because of the fact that of the characters that he plays, is Rowan. So Rowan is, if you've seen the ones with the video game store, the right?
Yeah.
So he's the one that's usually the manager.
Okay, yeah, I really like him.
That's Rowan.
He's really cool.
So I love Rowan just because of his delivery. Not to say that anybody else on there, all the other ones are really great, but just his delivery and what he does is especially because a lot of times he's made to play the asshole, as you've seen in certain things, and he just plays it so well.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
He does it so well that I'm just like.
I really like when they're doing the NPCs in an MMO thing.
Oh yeah.
I really like the guy who does the shopkeep in Honey Creek Village or whatever. He's so funny. I remember there was this one time.
That's Alan.
Yeah, Alan. I remember this one of his skits where he kept getting skipped by the person, and he ended up holding a fucking knife to his throat, and he's like, "Now you're gonna listen to me, and you're gonna listen to me very carefully. I have chickens that need to be saved. Will you help me, adventure?" Yeah, I'll help.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Those are so funny to me. And other skit people. I really like Call Me Chris, who's like massive on TikTok and starting to get big on YouTube too. She does all of her stuff pretty much alone, but she plays every character in her skits, and there's like 7 of them sometimes,
awesome.
And she does all different kinds of voices, and she gets like all dressed up for her characters and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're just so funny. There's this one of the kids she plays is Riley, and she has this like tiny hand that she puts in her sleeve, and she holds it up to her face, and she has this like baby voice, and it's just this chaotic demon of a child, and it's hilarious. Call Me Chris is an absolute legend. I love her. There's tons of other TikTokers and stuff that I like to follow. I really like following. There's a couple people. There's way more than a couple people, but there's a couple people that I really like to follow who are like couples that do like TikToks where they just like say funny shit to each other, or they like do pranks on each other. Those are usually really fun to watch.
See, I'm on the fence for some of that. So let me explain why. I liked a lot of the old content where people would do pranks, on each other, right? The problem that I have with it now, from what I've seen, is like, because there's only so many pranks you can pull, in a sense, right? Especially knowing that that's what like if I were to pull, I would record like pulling a prank on you, like you'd never expect it, That's what makes it funny to me, is like someone doesn't expect it. Some of the ones I got kind of tired of was just like, this is scripted.
Yeah.
This is not an actual prank. The person knows what's going on, and you can tell. That's the ones that
it's the reason I don't actually.
It becomes cringy to me. Like
I 100% agree.
It becomes
with you.
cringy
when it's obviously scripted.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Which is why I don't follow like a lot of those kinds of people.
Yeah.
But there's one particular, I don't know their names. They just pop up in my feed a lot. I don't follow them specifically, but I do really like them. I probably should follow them, to be honest. But like their pranks are usually like them in their, because like they do other stuff, like they stream and stuff too, and it'll usually be like they set their phone like on the charging stand and they hit record, and then they just say something stupid, and you just get to watch the other person's reaction. Or like one of them that I actually saw earlier today, like the girl started pretending to cry and she just wanted to see his reaction, and it was really funny because when she ended up turning around and just started laughing, he just deadpan like looked at her like, bitch.
Yeah, well, so like, okay, and I've told we talked about this in the music episode, YX.
Oh yeah, we should have talked about that in the when we were talking about music comedy earlier.
Yeah, but like YX is one of my favorite musicians right now.
Oh yeah, and he does do the couple stuff too.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he does have some serious music out there, some like really good serious music. We talked about it in the music episode, and I've talked about it with Spencer. Like he has this is non-comic related, but like one of my like go-to songs right now. It's called PTSD, and like for those of us who have suffered from it and know, what it is like to deal with, like I found that song one night and just I listened to it on repeat for like an hour straight because the words were just hit home. But the way I found YX and the way I came across his music was he pranks his girlfriend with songs all the time. Like he is a mastermind of comedic genius as well with his songs. There's one where he's sitting outside the bathroom while she's pooping and he's recording it. It's called "Pooping Your Life Away." There's one where he talks about accidentally putting her thong on. But the one that got me, the one that like the very first one that I ever saw, and a lot of people have probably seen it, maybe you just don't know who he is he brings in this karaoke machine. His girlfriend is sleeping in bed, and he puts the karaoke machine down, and he starts singing "You're late for work," and it's just like, but he sings it so really, way better than and he just starts singing to her, and she's just like, like what's going on right now? And he's like trying to be the alarm clock for her, and it's hilarious.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh yeah. He sings. Oh my gosh! There's another one that's hilarious. He talks about getting a dick pic, and he's like, trying to tell him I'm not gay. And he's like, he said something about that shit had hella veins or something. He does it to the what's that old Sheryl Crow Kid Rock song? I don't remember what the name of the song was, but you know, you'd know it if you heard it. But he does it to that, you know, music line, and, and it's hilarious. And his girlfriend is like popping her head out of the kitchen, looking at him funny.
That's funny. Yeah, I love it. And you know, I think the last like big sort of medium to consume comedy that we haven't really talked about much yet is like, you know, your TV shows, your sitcoms, your rom-coms, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's the big ones that everybody knows, like The Office, Friends. There's the older ones that a lot of generations older than I, you know, grew up with.
When I was a kid, man, TGIF. So when I was growing up, you know, TGIF was a thing that they did. I know that's a restaurant for some people, but it was every Friday night on ABC. You had Step by Step. You had Family Matters. You're talking about Steve Urkel earlier. Family Matters. You had all these different shows that were big comedies. Dinosaurs when it was out. You know, Not the Mama. You know, with the little baby. Again, you're not old enough for that. But you kind of look like the baby though. No, I have to show you. but no, like, you know, yeah, that was the thing, was Friday nights. That's what we, you know, as a kid, it was either that or going to Blockbuster and renting, you know, movies or video games and, you know, hanging out with your friends. That's what we do on Friday nights. You know, we'd sit down as a family a lot of times, watch these, you know, shows together while we're eating dinner. Like, that was the 90s for a lot of us, you know. So that is a skating rink. The old skating rink.
The old skate rink.
That's what we did as kids.
You know, some of the ones that were kind of in my heyday for watching stuff like that. I really liked. This is something my mom really liked when I was really young. Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh yeah.
So I watched that a lot when I was like 5, 6, 7.
Ray Romano, Brad Garrett.
Yeah. I really liked. Everybody Hates Chris.
Everybody Hates Chris.
Another good one for me was big fan of Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, Big Bang Theory. I mean, Jim Parsons is, you know, was great. David Galecki, he's been around since the 80s with Roseanne and stuff, you know. So, I mean, yeah, there's some great people there. You know, that's the thing, is like, you know, there's comedy out there, and you know, you said that, you know, that's one of the last forms that you want to bring up, but I want to bring up something even different, is the other form that we consume is with ourselves, with the people around us. Because think about it, when you see one of your friends feeling down, what is one of the first things that a lot of people try to do, other than console them or, you know, whatever?
Make them feel better.
They want to make them feel better, and what is one of the first ways they usually try to do that? Tell them a joke, you know, try to make them laugh, right? It's like, that's one of our first go-to reactions when we see someone sad, is like, we want to make them laugh because we know that laughing makes us feel better. And so, you know, that's one of the things that we consume, and that's why we wanted to talk about it today, is because, you know, again, you know, you can't say everyone, but most people enjoy a good laugh, you know.
It's true. You know, and that actually kind of brings up something that I'd like to talk about, in that, like, you know, when, like you said, when someone's feeling down, laughing is a good coping mechanism, right? There are some cultures where a funeral is more like a party, which is a little bit foreign to some people in the U.S., and in, you know, Western society, as it were. But the reason that is because when you celebrate the life of someone who's passed, it's easier for people to grieve in the long run. Because, you know, you get that laughter and, like, remembrance of the things that someone enjoyed, and you get to laugh about the good times, which is why some cultures do perform ceremonies like that.
Well, they do it that way, yeah, because the thing about it, like, you know, the sadness that we feel when those things happen is the sadness of, you know, our own personal loss. And like for me, for example, hopefully many years from now, when my funeral happens, you know, I don't want people to cry. Like, I want to do, like, record a stand-up scene beforehand, you know, and have it, you know, how they do the little montages of, oh, these pictures and angelic. No, I'm going to be playing a raunchy-ass comedy video, you know.
I'll help you record it.
And be making everybody laugh. That's what I want people to be doing at my funeral.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, because because
I'll be like
ultimately,
that motherfucker.
yeah, I mean, you always want to be able to laugh about stuff, and that's one of the reasons a lot of people tend towards dark humor. It's like joking about something that's clearly awful a lot of times, but it helps deal with pain.
Or the old saying of I'm laughing to keep from crying.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. And even though it leaves a bad taste in some people's mouths, that's why some people like, of all things, Holocaust jokes or jokes about like tragedies like 9/11, or joking about someone's death. For some people, it's just like it's another kind of way to escape from everyday reality.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the examples I can give personally on how I use comedy like in everyday life is me and my friends that are closest to each other. We rib each other all the time.
Oh yeah,
like that's how we show our love to one another.
100%.
Is joking around about things, and like there's lines that can be crossed, and it's happened before. But understanding, when that happens, just apologizing and making sure you don't cross that line again. But I mean, me and you, we give each other shit all the time,
100%.
But it's we do it in the sense of trying to make each other laugh and feel better. So yeah. I mean, I totally feel you on that.
Yeah.
But, well, that's this week's campaign. That's the meat and taters.
Hope you're full,
but not too full. We got a little dessert coming up from you.
It's true.
For you. We're going to talk about this week's mains.
Which today we share a main.
We're going to share. We're sharing.
We're all about sharing and caring here.
So we're going to share. So yeah, this week's mains for us, Spencer, is
new Capenna Spoilers are coming out hot and heavy, and they are very exciting to the both of us. I don't even have words.
I mean, it's very similar to when Kamigawa came out and we were talking about things that we saw like with Gen Kataxis and stuff like that. Like I don't know if you've seen it yet. I'm not going to go into details of the card, but the new Obnixilis.
New Obnixilis is awesome.
The card is insane.
New Urbrask is really cool.
New Urbrask, yes. Like I love because from Commander player standpoints, we know that red and white have traditionally been like the weaker colors, and I love that red especially is starting to kind of catch up.
Yeah.
With some of the stuff.
And so is white. They've really been giving them both good tools.
White's getting there for sure. But red especially has it's kind of leapfrog though. It's definitely like, to me, I think a lot of people will agree that red has become that fourth best color, and white's just still the worst. And when I say the worst, just because of some of the lack of support that it has. But like with the pseudo card draw and things like that they're giving red now, it's really getting up there. And you see a lot of we've seen a lot of Rakdos decks lately at the shop. With Prosper, which Prosper is a pretty good deck on its own. The blood tokens helped with that, stuff like that. But yeah, we've seen a lot of decks that have red in them coming up here recently, and it's been pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited for the Obnixilis Urbrask. When I saw that card, I sent it to Nick right away. I was like, "Oh, there's my reference." You thought I was gonna forget.
You thought.
But I sent it to my boy Nick right away, and his only reaction was "oof." that was exactly what he typed back to me. Was "oof."
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about the spoilers, and relating to the spoilers, once we get a full set, we are going to be doing another set review. This time more streamlined than the 5-hour episode we did last time.
Definitely won't be as long.
Yeah, we're gonna trim things down, do a lot more preparation.
Yeah, we can build our own gallery and stuff for us to go through. We'll talk about the cycles, in their own cycle and stuff like that, and then we'll talk more. We're gonna streamline it more towards the EDH stuff.
We're gonna really focus on the EDH stuff.
Yeah, because that's what our crowd is. So we're gonna focus on that for you guys. But yeah, that'll be coming up. Right. So we got. Oh man. Again,
there's a lot coming up in the next couple of weeks for us.
We got pre-release. So we got next week is like that what we call the dead week for Magic. It's that
Yeah.
it's that week between sets.
Yeah, it's the week when we know everything that's about to come out, and none of us have it yet.
Yeah. And then we have the week after that is pre-release, which again we'll be doing pre-release. It will be partnered up with Binary for part of our pre-release this time. So I'll have details out on the Facebook channel, or Facebook page for that. And then the week after that we have MGC. Where we'll be running events and stuff with the new set out. So what's really cool about that is for the events that we're going to have, those cards will be legal for the event.
Yep.
So you'll have some really, like, some cards you've never seen before at some of these events you'll be playing. So
True.
That'd be super sweet. That's really cool to have a big convention like that with a new set.
Yeah. Very excited about that. And, yeah, I mean, that concludes this week's episode. And we are so glad to have you guys back. And I'm so glad to be back. Because it's been like, almost 3 weeks since we've recorded together?
Yeah, because we did back-to-back episodes.
Yeah, because we had to record back-to-back that 1 week. So it's been a fat minute for me. But, glad to be back and glad to have you guys back. And as always, we want to hear what your favorite comedy is. We want to hear about some of your favorite stuff, some stuff that we should check out.
Tell us some comedians that you like, some shows, whatever.
YouTube videos. If you guys are fans of specific creators, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah. Feel free to add links so that we can go check them out and other people can go check them out.
Yeah, I always like to look at funny stuff.
That being said, preface it with not safe for work or needs to be adult content whatever.
If it is anything adult related, preface it with NSFW.
Preface it with that way people understand and know. I don't want to be someone be sitting there in their office or watching their video. Let me check this link out, and it's like, God, this is that's one of my ones I hate the most is when you're like, hey, check out this video, and it's the porn sound, and it's like it doesn't embarrass me. It's just like an attack on my senses.
Yeah, it's more just like my brain, ow.
Yeah, I'm not embarrassed if someone thought I was looking at that on my phone because I'm not going to whatever, but.
Going into this week's cool down, we love you. Thank you guys for watching. Next week, tune in to see us talk about all things conventions. Yeah, so the episode with Dan was supposed to be a special episode, just to talk specifically about it. Our original plan before Spencer had gotten sick was to do our episode on conventions. We decided not to do it this week because we didn't want to have back-to-back episodes, pretty much being the same thing. We want to give you guys a breath of fresh air in between. But yeah, next week we're going to be talking about conventions. We're going to be talking about not just conventions that we've been to, but we're going to kind of add in a little bit of regionalism to that. That's part of what I wanted in that. More specifically talking about the difference that I've seen in being in conventions here versus back home. So I'm from the area where Dragon Con is. So Dragon Con is one of the largest conventions each year. It's based in Atlanta, and it's a completely different experience than some of the smaller cons that we tend to go to here. So we'll talk about that. We'll give some details on that stuff in the next episode. But we love you. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. I wasn't able to stay healthy, but I'll do my best for you guys. He's back now. And we love you. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace. Later.